Octo is pleased to bring you this Planner Unplugged series in partnership with Scottish Widows, focused on helping advisors deliver better outcomes for clients today and in the future. Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Planner Unplugged from Octo members. I'm Katie Pigden, Content Director. And as ever, I'll allow my guests to introduce themselves. But as you can see, today I've got two of them. So, Nicola, if we can start with you first, if that's okay.
Yeah, hi, I'm Nicola Ellis, Director, Founder at Wellington Wealth. We're a small boutique financial planning business based in the city centre of Glasgow. And I work alongside my colleague and sister.
Yep, I'm Jennifer Ellis, the older sister, just for clarity, because Nikki gets very annoyed when she's asked if she's the older so the younger sister. And I am probably more in charge of the running of the business than the planning. Nikki is fully on client focus and I try to do the background stuff, and it works well as a team. And this is our 10th year in business, so still going strong.
Excellent. Well, congratulations. Very pleased to hear. And it seems like it's going very strong. So like to hear a little bit more about that. But how do we get into this world of financial planning? Because so many people I speak to stumbled into it. Are we a stumbler? Are we an intentional walking in?
I think I kind of went towards it, not directly necessarily. So I studied economics at uni, was more interested in the investment side of things. So that's where I thought I was going to have my career. But I graduated in 2003, Iraq war, stock market crisis. So all the graduate programs I thought I was going to, be earmarked for were no longer running. I also maybe enjoyed the social side of uni a bit too much. So I ended up with a 2-2. So all the graduate schemes, their first filter was you need a 2-1 or above to even apply. So I was kind of back to the drawing board a little bit of my wonderful career in the investment world. But I ended up few temp jobs, but then joined a one-man band financial advice practice that was linked to an accountancy firm. And pretty much that is where I learnt my craft, and actually then quickly realised I was probably blinkered by the money going down the investment route. And actually I'm a people person at heart, and it's such a rewarding path to be in. So did all my exams quite quickly, but was happy to bide my time to get that experience. And then not only the experience with clients, the experience of running a business. So being such a small business, I was able to get an insight into how the firm ran, so that when the opportunity came up 10 years ago for us to start our own business, it perhaps was sooner than we expected, but not as daunting, because I dealt with a lot of that side of things. So yeah, and I absolutely love what I do. It's one of those ones that I suppose I did go in that direction, but I'm so glad I found this as a profession, because it is wonderful. So it's such a rewarding profession to be in. So I really enjoy what I do.
And Jenny, what's your background?
I was more of a stumbler. I actually did a degree in topographic science, which is map making, and I worked 5.5 years in the oil industry on a survey boat, but got horrifically seasick and decided it wasn't my long-term career.
Yeah, but this isn't so much,
I knew I didn't want to do another survival test, which was the 5-year kind of timescale. And in between times, I was going back to do a master's, and my dad asked me, he was working in the industry. He was a director at Scott Moncrief Wealth Management, one of the directors there, and asked me to come in and cover some administration holiday leave, just for a 4-week period. Obviously, you do shifts when you work offshore, so I came in and helped out. And said, Dad, this is the dark ages. You need to upgrade these computers. You're not using your software. And I didn't really know anything about financial services. I just had obviously always used systems and technology in my working career, and said, this needs to change. Not really realising that the whole of the industry was really quite behind in technology because of the money. I just assumed it would be more advanced. I suppose the oil industry also has money. So yeah, and that's kind of how I started, and then never left. I mean, eventually that company offered me a job, and I worked as part of the accountancy practice in the business technology group before joining the wealth management side full time to help them.
It's funny how it can turn out, isn't it? 4 weeks has turned into quite a long time.
Exactly.
Back there, Jenny. They're like, where's she gone? What's happened?
But I'm much happier in the background, and someone needs to be that process procedure. And the oil industry is quite driven by processes and procedures as well. And so it's kind of natural progression, I suppose, for me, even although it doesn't seem like the usual way in.
So on the technology side of things, how far has the profession, the wider industry come with technology? Obviously, we've now got AI in the mix as well.
Well,
How much are you using it in your
I
business?
think the first catapult was actually 2008 financial crisis, because what we saw there was a lot of redundancies in the industry, but also pushing advisors, like from the provider side, those with a bit deeper pockets, were pushing advisors to use the tech to submit applications and do a lot more on that side, first of all. So that was probably the first leap forward.
That they kind of sold that to us, that you would get your business process quicker and you could, submit quickly. So you naturally started adopting more, but you actually adopted more of the risk actually at that point. It was a wee bit sneaky. It was more work on from the provider side of things to the planning business, and that risk as well of keying it yourself and doing it yourself, which was a wee bit sneaky.
The next leap forward was actually COVID, because even before, there was still no adoption of digital signatures, and we'd started with client portals, etc. But really, clients didn't fully engage until they had to engage, and then they've kind of never gone back. But it was quite a leap forward. I think those two dates were the two quite significant technology dates, and obviously it's beginning to snowball more and more with AI. So more people are more interested in it.
Do you think financial services is still a bit behind other professions and industries?
I think so. There's so many times I think to myself, why is that not just a tech solution, So,
Yeah.
but I think it's a bit of protectionist and a bit of, just companies wanting their own USP, so they don't want to collaborate on things. And that would be the big breakthrough, is if we all start collaborating a bit more on the data transfer, etc., much more easily.
Is that still the headache that from advisors that I've spoken to, and there's been all these various reports out there about the tech stack and the systems, and does one talk to the other? How well does it implement? All of that sort of stuff. Is the integration there? Is it getting better? Are we seeing improvement?
It's still not as far as it should be.
2 members of staff join us this year, and even just explaining our process systems that we use is actually embarrassing because it's a lot. We've really tried to streamline them, and I suppose a lot of the other members of the team have grown with the business as we've added the systems. But when you suddenly have newcomers into the business and go, right, we use this here for this because this doesn't do that, and then you have to go here for this, and that one doesn't talk to that one this way, but that one talks to that one this way, and it is bonkers that it should be simpler, but it's not commercial for a lot of companies, so they won't do it, and not all systems do everything you want. So if you want to do all the things, you have to have all the systems, apparently. So yeah, that's just where we are. But hopefully it will streamline. They will begin to talk to each other more. And we dream of just one place, one system, but we will see if that utopia ever comes to fruition.
Absolutely. We'll come back on in 10 years' time and see how far we've got, shall we? But I know what you mean in terms of new people joining, because sometimes when you found those workarounds and those ways and you make it work, you don't want the client to see probably some of the stuff that goes on behind the scenes. I've had similar things. I've worked on websites and the back end is absolutely terrible, really. And especially newspapers, I think they were a bit behind the times initially when I was starting working on them. So you'd still be selling your physical paper, but the website was a bit of an afterthought, or just like throw that piece of content on there. And you'd have all these things of like, this doesn't work, this error message comes up, but apparently that's okay if that error message comes up. It's if this one comes up and you think, I can't write a thing to try and train someone how to use it. It's just bizarre. It's when you suddenly think, I'll do a little video for someone. It's like, yeah, don't worry. If that comes up, that's okay. Just carry on. But if a different message comes up, you need to speak to somebody else now.
I think that's the other reason how we know it has evolved really quickly over the last 5 years as well, because we had quite, tight process and procedures. Everything was documented, written down. But then when someone comes in, you give them, you're saying, oh, well, that's actually changed now. And that's changed now, so you don't realise how many changes you've actually made as well in that time. So,
and I suppose it's that new person coming in going, why'd you do it like that? So, because just trust us.
Well, we say, if you can come up with a better way, we are open.
We're open to it. So how did if we go back the 10 years then, how did this business come about and going into working together?
I think we always thought we would go into business together at some point. Growing up, our mum and dad initially ran a hotel in Troon, so we grew up in the hotel, rolling our sleeves up, doing whatever needed to be done from quite early on. So we always had that good work ethic, and working together didn't really phase us. And I suppose actually at that time it could have been any job. We've got loads of interests and other hobbies and different things. And then obviously my dad later in his career got into financial services and ran a financial planning business that he then sold. I suppose that's how we knew of it as a career choice. And Jenny worked directly with my dad for a number of years.
We're probably a family of planners anyway. You're quite organised or have that brain that plans or has the vision for something, but we probably envisaged we'd be party planners rather than financial planners.
Well, there's loads of events that happen in the wider industry as well. So if you've got some spare time on your hands, I'm sure someone will snap you up.
We do have an older sister and she's in logistics. So, again, it's a planning kind of industry. So in the army. So we have that kind of organisational brain and vision how to get things done. So
yeah. And when we started, so technically it was 11 years ago we started. We had a bit of a false start initially with another business partner. Again, probably we thought at that point it was too soon for us to do it completely on our own. We had kind of started, but then we thought actually another business partner would work. But then we quickly realised, and thank goodness we quickly realised it wasn't going to work. So I think we submitted 2 FCA application forms within 12 months. So we got quite well versed to that. So, and actually we just never looked back. And I think having that false start gave us more, passion and determination to make this business work. And we kind of knew what we wanted to do. We knew we were quite cautious with how we ran the business deliberately in the early years. But I think it's actually been the best thing we've done. And arguably it's like, oh, why didn't we just do that sooner? But the amount of lessons we learned just from that experience of going into business with somebody, all the shareholder agreements type thing and the legals of it, actually we wouldn't perhaps have explored that in the depth that we had to if we'd both just got into business together. And so it was a useful experience, I suppose. And it's like everything, you learn lessons, but you take the positive out of that and move forward.
And dealing with lots of solicitors at that point in time, they actually became our early referrers.
Yeah.
I mean, it has worked out, better than we could ever imagine.
Funny enough, I'm thinking of introducing a content series of the mistakes made, lessons learned, because you can be brilliant at the planning side of things like you're talking about, but then that running a business, all those different hats that you've got to wear, just trying to get your head around some of those things. So are those professional connections still very important for you now? Do you work with other solicitors, accountants? How does that work in terms of growing business and referrals?
Yeah, we absolutely do, because originally the firm I worked with was joined an accountancy practice, so they're very much in touch and a good referring source.
Yeah.
But our biggest referring source still remains our existing clients. I mean, we've got a few just fantastic ambassadors for our business that just, came along at the right time, and we really helped them. Do your best, try and do a good job. And actually they have spread the words and sang our praises from the rooftops. And that's just been, I can count on one hand some really good ambassadors for the business that actually, arguably without them referring some of these really good leads, we wouldn't have grown the way we've grown today, which is brilliant. Professional connections are still a good source, but I would say it's existing clients is the biggest source of business for us. We've never advertised or really pushed our services, which is amazing for a business that's been running for 10 years.
Yeah.
But it's literally been word of mouth.
We're revamping our website, so everything that we've done so far in marketing has all been done by me or Nikki. We've not outsourced or done anything like that. So I built the website, our original website, and we've also had events. Everything's been organised by us. So we're only finally getting out to a proper marketing company to help us with some stuff for 2026, because we're hoping to move a new advisor up, and then obviously then needing more clients in quicker for that person to take over. So that's kind of where we've been with the marketing.
Well, obviously if it's worked up until this point, that's fine, but it's great that you're in that position. Has that been a good reflection point then of 10 years, what we've achieved in that time? Because sometimes we don't actually look back and go, yeah, we've come a long way.
Yeah, I think it's only been the last sort of 4 weeks we've been doing that, thinking about, oh God, it's next year, it's her 10th birthday. It also coincides with my daughter's 10th birthday. So
Oh,
she was
oh
10
gosh,
on the 3rd of
that
December.
was a
So
busy time then.
it was a busy, busy time. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily recommend starting a business and having your first child at the same time. But you know what? We did it and managed. And so that's always a good reminder of how many years we've been in business. And also we're upgrading our website. So again, that's prompted us to reflect, and we're putting a bit of a timeline on there. And just when you actually just break down what we've done throughout that 10 years, it's been a lot actually we've squeezed into that decade, which has been great. But I think we're even more excited for the next 10 years as well, because again, we've just had all our like meetings with every member of the team this week, and just everyone's on the same page. Everyone, I think 2026 is going to be quite an exciting year for the business, because we've got the right people in the right seats, and, all raring to go. A lot of the culture that we've got in the business is just really nice. Everyone's on board with how we're running things, and that common goal, which is great. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the next 10. Absolutely.
So part of the website revamp then, will those lovely ambassadors that you've got, will they be featuring on there, doing any kind of case studies, testimonials?
No, I mean, we might be unusual in that. I mean, I know social proof is everywhere, but actually, a lot of the clients we have value their privacy.
Yeah.
They'll tell their own friends, but I don't think we would like to splash them all over. We would never ask them to be splashed all over our website, and I don't think they would want to either. Like, you kind of need to know your clients and know what they would or wouldn't want to do. And that privacy in finances is quite important. And especially with cyber criminals and things, there's no way we would want people to get targeted because of our website. We would feel awful. Yeah, it's something we've toyed with. We know a lot of people do it, and a lot of people think that's the way to get clients. But in our case, we are not putting clients on our website.
No, but I think it's really important that clients telling the story, though, like you say, telling their friends and family, because so many people don't know about financial planning and what it is, and that value that you can provide, which is so much more than the charts going up in the right direction.
Yeah.
If we can help people spread that message a little bit further of like, what is the profession? Firstly, to encourage people into it as well as the planners. So hopefully conversations like this where people can see women as well, women advisors, which is nice in is it still a fairly male dominated profession?
Yeah, it is. It is changing, but whether quick enough, I don't know. But there's certainly far more female faces at events and things that you see. Because I do remember when I started 20 odd years ago that, you were the only female in a room at certain points. And I suppose the way we've been brought up, it didn't really bother us. I think actually our older sister went into the army. Jenny obviously went into the oil industry, and I went into the financial industry. So our first careers have all been quite male dominated industries, bizarrely. But yeah, I think that's changing, and it is a case of spreading the word, because clients don't really know what the magic of financial planning is. Never mind, school kids coming out of school or uni, they don't know what it is, and often you don't know what you want to do at that point, so it's quite hard to know. But that's been important for us to try and change the image of financial planning as well, and because it's wonderful, the people that we've met over our careers, and just we've found it a really rewarding profession to be in, and it's just trying to, again, for us to shout that from the rooftops of we've really enjoyed our career and are still enjoying it, and we're hopefully only halfway in. So
I think part of our business planning we start and go, well, what don't we like about the industry? And how can we as a business do it differently? So whether it be our financial planning studio, which is our office, and having it more like a home and more like a nice place for people to work and be and have events. And we try to reimagine everything and say, well, how would it be done better?
Yeah.
And that's in everything we do. Not how can we do the systems better? How can we actually deal with clients better? We're always on a continuous improvement trajectory.
Can I tug on that? What don't we like about the industry?
The jargon.
How long have we got, right?
Exactly. I know, in days gone by, it was, my heart sinks when I have client meetings and we ask if they've had any previous experience. And I had a recent client that came to see us, and in her words, this is exactly what she said. She said she did have a previous advisor, but they taught at her for the meeting. And my heart sinks thinking, what are we doing? I can't believe people are still doing that out there. And arguably, it's harder to make the complex simple. To do that translating piece, that's just one of my big bugbears, that's still going on out there. People just need help. They come to you for help. They don't need to be bamboozled further in already a complex part. Just to bring simplicity for me is a bit of a bugbear.
I think that's the whole industry is guilty of using jargon, and there is a lot of technical knowledge needed, but we are the translators. The Google Translate doesn't do financial services just yet, but that's what's needed. And a lot of people come out of their exams and things and they're spouting all these 3-letter acronyms and all sorts. But that's probably one of the biggest tips for a young advisor is rein all that back. You're the one that needs to speak in the client's language. Yes, you need to know it all, and yes, you need to be able to do all the technical calculations, but you don't need to tell clients about every single technical calculation you're doing.
Yeah. It's so important, isn't it, that language? Because I also think when I was training to be a journalist, you were told the average reading age of some of the newspapers and even the tabloids and the broadsheets. It was a lot lower than you would think. And it's actually, if you can explain something to a child, not in a patronizing way or anything like that, but if you can explain something, I think it shows you understand it better as well, doesn't it, really, that you can then break it down and you can make it make sense to somebody else, because surely that's part of the reason they're coming to you. Exactly. Because this is a headache they don't want. Can you take this away from me? Can you help me? Can you figure this out?
We use the David Attenborough approach, which is assuming intelligence but no knowledge, and he always says the proper word first but then explains what that is. And that's kind of what we like, because you still need to, there are certain words you have to use, but you've got to explain it that first time to the client and hope that is enough for them to then know what it is, because we generally speak to business owners, professionals, so they're all clever people. It's just that they don't have the financial knowledge.
No, and they'll have knowledge and expertise in whatever their field is, and we can expect to think, oh, I know more than them, or I've got to tell them every single aspect. So how important is that financial education piece then? What more needs to be done in that area?
So that's something actually this year we've really tried to champion, because the awareness, it's then how do you get the awareness? Well, it has to start in schools. It really does. It's, we've had the pleasure of having a few work experience individuals in. We've had 3 sort of school age, 16, 17 and 18. So their sort of first introduction into financial planning. And actually, out of the conversations with them, it's the basics actually that they thought they wanted to know, in that one of them asked about income tax. They were talking, they wanted to know a little bit more about income tax and just how did that work? What was it? If some of these basic skills that everyone kind of needs. Everyone needs to know how to read a payslip and what a mortgage is. And again, these are really useful life skills, not necessarily to then plot a career in financial planning. They're just things you need to know as an individual in life, So if that started earlier in schools, I feel that understanding or just more confidence with managing money and what it is, understanding it earlier, better, that's only a good thing. So I think that in schools, and again, just trying to spread the word.
And now for a few words from our content partner, Scottish Widows.
Business protection is still underserved and clients feel it when the unexpected happens. Scottish Widows is committed to this market, a multi-year investment in our protection platform, the launch of our reassuringly simple income protection and journey enhancement. It all adds up to simpler conversations and smoother delivery. If you'd like to find out more, please contact our business development team by emailing protectsales@lloydsbanking.com.
So that's again why we agreed to do the LANCAP
event,
because
ask about that, my former stomping ground.
Yeah.
So that was financial planning live on stage, is that right?
Yep. Yeah. Crazy.
I mean, the whole event was called New Blood, and it was trying to inspire students, university students, school students, and industry newcomers, if you like, just to try and show them what it is we actually do.
Yeah.
And we were crazy enough I was crazy enough to accept on Nicola's behalf, really.
I was on holiday at the time. Jenny agreed to.
Oh, right,
to do these
okay.
things.
So how did it work? Did I hear correctly that you took some of your furniture? I know you said your office is more like a homely environment. Did you take some of it to the actual venue on stage? That
Yeah.
is,
So I'm actually so glad we did because, I mean, you couldn't prepare for it. So that was a
no.
really daunting thing. You couldn't do anything. And we just had to keep thinking it's just us doing our day job. The audience was a third kind of career changers, school leavers, a third were peers, fellow financial planners, and a third were industry people. That's quite daunting doing something like that in front of your peers. And I thought to be comfortable in our own environment, if we could, can we take our meeting table and our chairs? And the Landcat were up for us creating our office space on stage at the IMAX cinema. That small auditorium in the Sun Centre in Glasgow.
Seats, nothing to worry about.
Exactly. But I'm glad I did because we it just felt like it was a real life meeting. Our furniture just helped us think that we were in a meeting situation and it added to the focus and the whole situation.
But we're also quite focused on trying to show the really good bits because of course we could go through a fact find and go through the money laundering and all these things that are compulsory, but the good and exciting bits that are going to attract people into the industry is all the real life-changing stuff, the cash flow planning and seeing the goals come to life. And so we kind of thought, well, that's what we're going to focus on and try to show the really good bits.
Yeah. You had an actor come to you with a scenario and you had to formulate a plan.
Yeah, so it's I think so we were in a broom cupboard, so we didn't actually see how it worked before, but basically it was 3 scenarios. So A, B, C. I think we had Angus, Billy and Charlie. And the audience got to find out about Angus, Billy and Charlie, and then they could vote on what scenario they wanted to happen. So they voted for Charlie. So I met Charlie, who was a business owner, and I think we had about half an hour to get an envelope of basic details, and then we went into the
I don't think it was even half an hour. I think it was about
no, maybe not.
15 minutes.
Yeah.
So the poor actor had to also get in character for the duration as well. So yeah, so it was it was a great challenge to set yourself. I mean, it could have been an absolute disaster, and our reputation could have been over in a second. You take years to build your credibility and your reputation in
Just seconds.
So many people said to us, "There's no way I would have done that."
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they're repeating it in London, aren't they? So
Yeah.
I think there's going to be victims as the next ones to do it. But I've heard people from all different things actually say about it. So I've had other advisors say, didn't really feel that was obviously going to be for me, but I really enjoyed it, or just to see how they approach things or how they question things. So they've taken something away. I've had platform bosses say, oh, that was the best part. It was absolutely brilliant. Really loved it. And obviously, I've not had a chance to speak to the young people, but I would imagine at least that is seeing and explaining, and then they can get a feel for it.
And we've had some lovely feedback.
Yeah.
Again, we didn't really imagine what the aftermath would be because we didn't really think about it, to be honest. But we've had some really nice messages from students on LinkedIn, and even there was one girl who's already working in financial services and her sister's studying in financial services, and she said, I didn't even think that it was possible to go into business with your sister. So just even knowing that there was sisters in business, and it was inspiring in itself, let alone everything you did on stage. So that was really nice as well.
Yeah.
And that cash flow planning there, so I suppose that's the first time that's been seen in front of a bigger audience and things. But so many advisors and planners talk to me about that, of trying to paint that picture for someone. Because I suppose it's really hard to try and picture, what do these things look like in the future? How does that plan? What do I need to do? So how important is it to you then?
Yeah, I mean, it is hard to describe, but I now feel I couldn't do my job without it. It's one of those tools. I don't necessarily use it for every single meeting, or you make a call if it's appropriate, but I certainly usually build it at least once a year for a client, and behind the scenes, we might go into it, we might not. Some clients absolutely love it. Some are, not. They've sometimes got other points to discuss and it's not appropriate for that. I think it's, don't get me wrong, it's not the be all and end all, because I always say you still need to know how to read a map. So you can't just solely rely on the sat nav.
You got Jenny to help you
It's like when sat nav got introduced, you still needed the map, and cash flow planning's the same. It's a far more useful tool. It brings the plan to life a bit more, because rarely people pull all their assets together in one place and then look at what that's going to be like in the future. And I think that's what it does really well. And it's funny because, again, you don't, like when we were doing the financial planning live, you don't know if you present it or what you do. And I mean, we've a 2 advisor firm, so you don't know if what you're doing is the same as everyone else, because everyone does it differently. So that in itself is a wee bit daunting. You're presenting it how I would present to a client, but whether that's how everyone else does it, it's it can be quite different. But it's certainly such a useful tool that I use almost daily in my role. So I'm a cash flow planning geek, really.
Yeah. And proudly wear that label.
Absolutely.
To the technology then, what do you feel that the planning profession still needs? So cash flow planning, you probably can't imagine doing it without it now, like you said, depending on the clients. But what is it in some of those meetings that you think we could really do with this? Why hasn't this happened yet?
I think it needs a client-focused software.
Yeah.
And I think, that sounds stupid. All the systems are for either product sales or compliance or this, and it's not actually about the client. And that's so important. That's everything that our business is about. And, that's why sometimes we have all these best of breeds, because it's about the client and what the best thing is for them. And so I think it just needs a system that is thinking from the client perspective.
Yeah, it's almost every person in the business, every member of the team, it's similar data than you need, but just a different view and different way of extracting it. And I think it's coming. I think with AI, and the next few years are going to be really exciting to see what is out there. But just one place that you can store everything and question and manipulate to get that data back out, because you gather it, it's storing it, it's then updating it, and certain parts won't change, and it's just how you it's all about the data, really, and it's just how you map that. But yeah, I think the last 10 years, when you think of how far we've come in technology, it is going to snowball with AI, but I feel we're still teetering on the edge a little bit. And being a small firm, you also don't want to adopt some of these things too early and go whole hog with your full system, because that can be quite a risk. And we'll let some of the bigger companies go first and then see how that pans out. And no doubt there's going to be a lot of consolidation with tech as well going forward. So you don't want to leave one system and then they suddenly have a wonderful AI tool to use.
Yeah. I think there's something like 42 note-taking AI systems.
They can't all survive, can they? Yeah, it does feel like there's a few questions around that as well. So I can understand that caution. And obviously it's client data and very things that you're dealing with. So yeah, I have always wondered, because when I started out as a journalist as well, you couldn't record certain things. So certain court cases, you couldn't go in and record that. And actually it feels a bit counterintuitive, because surely that's one of the places that you probably do need to make sure you have completely got that right and you're accurate, and maybe have a reference point to go back to. And when some of these first voice transcription services started coming through, I didn't trust any of them initially. I was like, right, no, I still need my pen and paper. I need to be jotting stuff down, taking as much of this information in. And they have obviously advanced so much, even ones that are just general, not necessarily for the advice profession. They've come a long, long way.
Even ones that recognise a Scottish accent.
But sometimes I've then had so much stuff that you think, oh, right, I need to now find the time to come back and pull out those ideas or those stories or those bits of content. And actually, it's probably just still sitting there, and it suggests some things for me and things. I still need to go back over and still have that human sense check and all of that.
Totally. We've had some clangers actually of what AI have recorded in terms of what it's picked up, and especially the Scottish accent. I don't think it's quite on point with that. The other thing is, as you mentioned there, it's one part of the business can speed up. So it's helped me hugely in my meetings and taking more, not only concise notes, but what I like, it documents more about vulnerabilities and conflicting statements. I may have picked up part of it, but I wouldn't have written up. And even sort of nice comments actually from clients I wouldn't necessarily write down, but it does pick that up. And this is all good for consumer duty, etc., that, they've understood it and it picks that up. But what then happens is if you can get through more meetings and more meeting notes, and this is a danger of AI in itself, you can do more, but then that then leads to bottlenecks elsewhere if you've not then sped up that process. And I suppose that's something that a challenge that we'll all face, of just making sure how you don't cause those bottlenecks further down the line with it, with the team. And also you just don't absorb all your freed up time. That's the other thing, AI, because that was one big thing at the Financial Planning Live, your thinking time. You do need thinking time in client cases. And AI can speed things up, but you still need time. You can't just have, you've eked out extra time. We'll use that wisely rather than just doing more meetings or seeing more people. It's we're still learning, I think, with all of these.
What about you, Jenny? Any thoughts as well?
I mean, I first said to Nicola, it was actually the year we started the business, I said, what we need to do is replace ourselves with AI. I know that was quite early, but there was the first AI advisor was called Peffin, and it was over in New York. And I said to Nikki, I think we should go over and see that if this is going to be suitable, can we translate it into a UK market for our business? And then we just got too busy with business things, and we never went to New York. And I think Peffin was either bought over or something. It's the sort of same victim story that bigger companies will buy these things and swallow them up and never hear from them again unless it's a different form. I mean, AI can help in so many ways, and we are using it for the business, don't get me wrong. You can use it in a marketing sense. You can use it without endangering client data at this point. We can still, one of the things Nikki and I use it for is we tend to waffle and we tend to keep talking, and it's just trying to make it more concise and eloquent. So I think that's one of the things we probably use it for most. But it's exciting. It really is an interesting space. And I think because I'm of a generation that kind of grew up with the books, and then, some technology started coming in, you see the benefit of old and new, whereas I think the younger generation don't have that reference point of how far it's come. But it's good to have all the different perspectives in everything in our business, because we try to have someone in every decade so that we're in touch with every point, because that's where our clients are. We have clients, young clients as well as old clients, and we need to make sure what we're doing is fit for purpose.
Do you have a particular type of client that you work with? I know obviously everyone's very different, but is there a target market that you go for?
It always sounds quite cheesy, but it is nice people first and foremost. That's kind of what
you've got to feel comfortable that you're working with them, and likewise them working with you.
Totally. I would say so we've got 3 categories: dream, plan, and enjoy. So the plan is usually can be between 50s to 60s, really, actually, or ideally they come in earlier.
Yeah.
But that can be entrepreneurs, professionals. We've got so many just really interesting people, from surgeons to solicitors to accountants and artists and music industry professionals. It's such a really diverse background. But the key point with most of them, they're engaged with their planning. And that's something that we've got quite a structured process when a client first comes in, contacts us, that we want them to invest a little bit of time. And if we're going to have that first meeting, so they invest a little bit of time, and you can tell if they're willing to do that, then it usually bodes well. If they're not willing to do that, then they're maybe not that engaged. And I think that sort of our first filter, if you like, for clients. It's a good bunch we have. Would you articulate it different, Jenny? This is where I need to get me a better description.
We do say nice people, but we've got the dreamers, which are young people. So, I mean, primarily, it's not our target market, but inevitably clients refer their children or their grandchildren for something, or they're gifting further down. So we still need some sort of light service to try and help those people, because ultimately we know the plan, and we know that the money is coming back to them. So we're quite good at that intergenerational planning that other people maybe aren't so good at. But we do try to deal with each generation in a way they'd like to be dealt with as well, which I think makes a difference, because you can't deal with someone in their 80s the same way as someone in their 20s. It's just a totally different story. So we've tried to cover all bases for these individuals on the types of the way they would like to engage with a financial advisor or planner.
Yeah.
And which is why we've created the most Instagrammable office in the land. I think also the enjoyers we're really focused on them and living their best lives. And part of the office, we've got art on the walls, we've got books on the bookshelf, but they're all about travel and inspiring people and hobbies. And because retirement shouldn't be the end of a chapter, it should be the beginning of a new chapter, and it should be really exciting and interesting. And if we can give some new interests and hobbies to clients, then why isn't that our job as well as doing the financial side? Because life is too short.
And you must hear like so many different things of what people do want to achieve, and potentially that's planting ideas for you in the future as well.
Totally. But the best bit is when you get photos from like Machu Picchu or the house that they've just built from scratch, and then they do send these through. It's genuine, or their holidays or different things, because it's big life events you go through with clients.
Absolutely.
And to help them be comfortable with doing that as well. It's a pleasure to do what we do. So
Nicola must be quite strict, because we get messages saying Nicola told me to spend more on my garden, but she's still telling me to spend more.
Here's me doing it. A few advisors have said that to me in terms of that permission, that actually sometimes people come and they've either been used to saving and you're preparing for that, and obviously you've got to have one eye on the sort of future and what's coming down the line, but also living for now, because we don't know how long we've got. So without being frivolous and putting yourself in any risk of not having anything for those tomorrows that come. But
exactly, I keep saying this is the moment you've been saving for, that chapter, but that mindset, it's really hard to change that mindset, and that's where cash flow comes in, because you can show that yes, you can continue spending, but the key point is just to monitor it. So it takes a while, but we've been chipping away at a few clients to try and encourage them, and it's been working in some instances.
It's nice that you go across the generations, because I know it's got to be viable for your business and things like that. But as we were saying earlier, that educational piece, but the earlier we start doing things, and we know there's some challenges coming down the line for future retirees and, people maybe getting on the housing ladder later, childcare costs. Nikki, I'm sure you've, encountered some of that. I certainly have.
Exactly. And they just seem to, once even you get through nursery, they just get expensive as they get older as well. It's more expensive.
Oh no, mine's coming out of nursery next year. I thought it was hopefully going to go back the other way, Nikki.
Maybe got a couple of years, but then they get into wanting expensive things, which
I remember writing a piece recently saying, mini celebration, but the nursery fees have just dropped below £1,000 for the first time a month, and January they're just about to creep back over that already, but at the highest point it was 1,500, and you're thinking, gosh, okay. But I do view it as that investment in him, but an investment in me as well, to still do some of those things that you like doing and the job. And I don't begrudge what they're getting paid either, because I think looking after one's hard enough. I'm not sure how they're looking after.
I know, exactly. And then when they go to school, it's a whole different story. It's the admin that you've got around the school, whereas actually nursery and the hours are actually easier than the school and the juggle pre and post. But it's good fun.
So the work experience people that you've had come in and that younger perspective, is there anything that you feel that you're actually going to change within the business as they've seen things or questioned things? Or
yeah, we've had a really good series of people, and some of our website redesign has actually been, there was a couple of interns over the summer, and we got them looking at all the different financial services websites, and we told them to write down what could make us different. And so they put input into that, which is good. We've had 2 senior school pupils in, and Nikki's had some great feedback from there. And generally it's either people we know or clients of children of clients, or someone we bump into that says, do you think you could show? They don't know what they're going to do. They're just at a loose end. Can you show them what you do?
When you were cast your memory back to being sort of 17, 18 and not really having a clue what to do, but you had to pick a uni course, and then it was really hard. One of the boys, he's apparently had a different spring in his step, just because I think he can now envisage that kind of uni chapter, or is quite enthused about life after school, because again, you get to a point you're kind of ready to leave school, some of them, and he was quite a mature boy, and just some of the questions have been phenomenal from them as well, like just really engaged with it, that I kind of think they're far more sensible than I was at that age. The future is bright, definitely. And I know
you hear so many stories of that generation being lazy and not wanting to work and all, but all we've seen is really they bring energy into the office, which is great, and just different thinking, different ideas. But as a business owner, you've got to listen and accept some of these. You can't just, they'll soon lose that enthusiasm and energy if you don't help, actually use them and encompass them and try to make your business better.
So, Nikki, I believe there's congratulations in order. Do you hold a certain title?
Yes, I know that was a good one to get this year. Second time lucky. Yes, I know. I'm delighted to win CFP Professional of the Year in October. Still smiling from it. My cheeks are sore from smiling. It was a really good one to do. It's hard work, and it's hard work to get the qualification in the first place, and then to go for the professionals, another series of questions, case study. And that's the thing. I kept asking myself, do I really need to go into a full-blown case study with this? And then I kept saying, well, what would CFP Professional of the Year do? And then I was like, then do a full-blown case study. We go back into it. No, I know, but I do love it. As I said, I'm a case study geek probably, because I just love different scenarios. And as a business, I hadn't quite realised we have a lot of CFP case study scenarios as clients, like real life ones. So actually it wasn't too daunting when I came to the actual case study, because it's a whole different level of analysis you do for that. But it just makes you a better planner, I think, just going through that process, which I've kind of brought to the business. And I think so then to achieve that accolade was just, really good.
And the whole team are really, proud of Nicola doing it. But it's good for us, because we always worry as sisters, do we have enough challenge, and do we, are we doing things right? Because we do think quite alike at times, and you just want to make sure that what we're doing is on the right track. So that's partly why we do the Landcat New Blood and the enter these things, because it's an external verification of what you're doing, or validation on what you're doing is the right path. So that's good.
Absolutely. And you said second time lucky, so I think I've seen that the interview was a bit of a nemesis the first time round. Can you just talk me through that?
I don't know if I should really explain the detail, but I will be. So it's 3 sections, and I did the multiple choice questions. Then it's a case study, all of which I was pretty confident about. And I got the email to say I'd made it to the final. And this was the first time I'd entered, and I was just so excited about making it to the final that I completely, I put the date in my diary, but I missed the content of the email because I was just so excited.
Yeah.
And then when I sat in the interview with the judges on screen, and they said, okay, we'll just put the screen to sharing modes for your presentation. And I went, presentation? What presentation?
Yeah,
and I said, I'm just going to talk. And I completely missed that we were to prepare a presentation. And I was so annoyed with myself. So as Jenny said, we're wafflers. So I waffled even more waffle than I normally waffle, because I was... that had taken me by surprise. So this year, again, multiple choice case study, and I deliberately read the email in detail, prepared a case study, and
there's always lessons learned.
We get to see. But it just shows that thing of not giving up and not being put off by it, and come back on the next years.
That's it.
And she also told her daughter that she would do it and win it.
I know.
So I know the pressure was on.
When I came back from that the first year award, and she said, "Oh, Dad told me you didn't win," and she said it's okay. And she was giving me the pep talk, and I said, exactly. And I said, "Oh, it's fine. I'm going to enter next year, but I'm going to win next year." And it kind of came out before I'd really thought about what I'd said, and then I was like, "Oh God, I'm going to have to do this." So luckily, I did it. I did it for Charlie. I told her I would do it.
Is it a title that you can retain, or does it automatically get given to somebody else next year?
It will go to somebody else next year. But then I was speaking to somebody, one of the other finalists, and he told me that he'd entered and he'd won it previously, but he also told me nobody'd won it twice. So that then made me go,
a new goal,
another challenge.
Challenge accepted. I'm coming back when I can.
Exactly. I know.
And obviously just tell your daughter you're going to win it. And
you see, we're quite competitive. At school, we both played sport, or all 3 of us played sport. And, we're just kind of naturally competitive, not in a nasty way. If we don't win, we're not exactly going to be in the huff for hours and hours. But we always look on the bright side. You've got to aim high and try to be as best as you can be. And that's something our mum and dad always taught us, to strive to be as good as you can and learn everything, and your knowledge and attitude will carry you through. And I suppose that is things we've applied to the business and running it as well.
Absolutely. Has imposter syndrome ever crept in as well? Because I know for me, even if you can believe in yourself and you do certain things, occasionally, I don't know, that little niggly voice comes in. So I think it is important to try and show that positive.
Yeah, I think having your best cheerleader next to you, so being sisters, I think you get confidence from that. Or if there's ever those seeds of doubt, the other one will be, don't be so silly, of course you can, and pushing the right way of what's needed. And I think if we were doing this completely alone, it would be a very different story. But I think that is, I suppose, given us a natural confidence, maybe, that to not let those seeds of doubt creep in. And sometimes I think we genuinely just don't stop for any length of time to think about it too much, and it's just, keep going.
Yeah. And I think it is good having the two of us, because we do have different skill sets as well. Although we're alike in some ways, we're actually very different if you knew us really well. And having those different skill sets are complementary really does, as Nikki said, gives you confidence and someone's got your back, and you can do your bit well, and the other person's doing their bit well, and that's what you.
And they'll also call you out and take you down quickly if you're doing a rotten job.
I was about to say, if there's the frustration side of things, or ever that clash, you're probably happier to call each other out on it, are you, than maybe you would a different colleague.
Exactly.
We've grown up with a thick skin in volleyball teams and hockey teams, and you learn to roll with the punches and accept criticism and all these things.
I saw a great article, Nikki, where it was the fact that you had more balls than most, right?
Exactly. That's it. I wasn't sure if that was a bit too risky, but I went for it.
I like it. I mean, it stands out and gets noticed. So
exactly.
Why not? But is sport still a big thing in both of your lives?
Yeah, well, I've had to retire from sport due to injury, knees, and had a hip replacement nearly 2 years ago, but still very much train. I'm training sort of 6 days a week. I've actually got a couple of sporting challenges next year. I'm going to do my first high rocks next year. Whether I'll be able to complete it, we will see. But I think always challenging ourselves and just that kind of fitness. I think once you've always been used to routine and training, just channeling it in different ways. Yeah, it's quite important, I think.
And I kind of retired from volleyball. I played 24 seasons in the first division, and I played for Scotland. And it's quite a hard game on the joints when you're constantly jumping or diving. I mean, we were going to come out for a reappearance, my old vets team this year, but I'm not so sure it's happening. We're still in debate, but if we can get enough players. But I'm back swimming at least, so not in any competitive form, but yeah. When I do play tennis or something, I'm still competitive.
I've recently just got back into netball, so not on a competitive basis, but used to play it at school, and then a bit longer, and then had some ad hoc social ones, and just sort of saw in this Just Hill gossip group that someone was trying to set up quite an informal one. I was like, okay, I have no idea if I can still do it, but I'm going to try and give it a go.
I mean, sport is fantastic. It's fantastic in so many ways. And it's even just that networking and connections you have through sport up and down the country. And, that carries on to your personal life, and being able to network, because you speak to lots of people in team sport and all walks of life as well. So you have to be able to, deal with everybody, different age groups and social backgrounds.
Financial planning has often been a second career for sports stars when their professional life comes to an end. It's like, what do I do next, or needing that advice and knowing where to go to. So there's definitely a lot of crossovers there. Just as we're coming to an end, and I've really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you both. Do you have a personal money rule that you live by?
Don't spend more than you earn. That's, I suppose.
And this is what I'm trying to instill in my kids as well. Just not buying the thing that you want, save for it. That delayed gratitude is better than just going out and getting it. And I think you appreciate it more when you've actually diligently saved and then got it. So that's what I try to live by and show the kids, because it's too easy these days just to go on and get whatever whenever, but actually waiting or highlighting, this is something I'm really keen to get, but then saving. I suppose it's just because of the kids, you're more mindful of your habits and the way you deal with money.
Yeah. I've definitely been trying to say to my nephew as well. I've been saying it to someone else recently that it's just that instant gratification versus sometimes could you get a bigger thing or better thing if you save that? Does it have to disappear as soon as you've got it?
Exactly.
And then normally they come to Auntie Jenny and
Auntie's the cool one, right? Yeah. So, I mean, it works both ways. Brilliant. Well, thank you both so much. And I hope to see all the exciting things to come in 26 and the revamped website. And Nikki, when your chance comes to go for that title again, best of luck. I hope you get it.
Oh, thank you.
But thank you both so much. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having
thanks
us.
for having us.
Scottish Widows is investing in business protection. Better journeys, clearer tools, and reassuringly simple products. Follow Scottish Widows Protection Advisor on LinkedIn, speak to one of the business development team, or visit our advisor protection site.